Welcome, Canadians. I'm so glad that you could be able to join us. This is my friend Ramesh. Ramesh Babu is the Executive Director of EFICOR, the Evangelical Fellowship of India Commission on Relief. We've been a partner with EFICOR for almost 50 years. And Ramesh, I'm just going to ask you to just give a little bit of a picture so that everybody understands about the work of EFICOR, who you are, your size. Give us a little idea of the scope of EFICOR and your work in India.
Hi, thanks, Vinay. It's a very good opportunity to meet you. It's always a privilege to have a conversation with you. And EFICOR has been partnering with the Tear Fund Canada for many years now. I remember about 40 years or so. And I've been with EFICOR for the last 24 years. In fact, my half of life has been with EFICOR. And originally I come from a Hindu background, and then I accepted Christ as my personal savior, and then got a missionary call, and then I came to North India to serve the poor and needy. That's my background. And when it comes to EFICOR, the Evangelical Fellowship of India Commission on Relief, it's a relief and development wing of the Christian community in India. And we have been working in this country for the last 52 years. And the primary mandate of EFICOR is to demonstrate the love of Christ, among the people, so that the church can able to act like a salt and light in the midst of all these poverty situations. So primarily EFICOR builds capacity of the church so that the church can involve or address the issues of poverty. And EFICOR has also been involved quite strongly in all the disasters in the country. So in a way, EFICOR builds local churches in terms of their capacity, and address the issues of poverty and injustice. And in terms of the third aspect of EFICOR is that we work in the remotest part of the country. We work in the very poverty-prone areas. Like Tear Fund Canada has been supporting us two places. One is in Jharkhand, which is a very tribal-dominated state in the country towards the east. And the second one is Odisha, which is again, one of the poverty-prone states in the country, which has millions of poor in that state. And towards the south of Odisha, we work among the Saura community with the support of Tear Fund Canada. And when you work with the communities, most of the work we do on the farm-based, the agriculture-based activities. And most of our farmers are not having a skill or not having a know-how in terms of the technology, and also not having the new trends and the new methods of agriculture. So we help them to identify those areas and then try to build their capacity so that there is a revelation in the agriculture and people can get more yield and able to mitigate that food lean period which they have.
This is really exciting. You work with the church, with the local catalyst for change, and as the church has been growing in India, and their strength has been evangelism, discipleship, and they've had explosive growth, you've been working alongside the church in the poverty alleviation side. So it's not just loving God with all your heart, your mind, your soul, and your strength, but it's moving alongside them to love their neighbor. And working alongside of the church planting movement is the poverty alleviation movement that you're working through. Now, you also have had two major phases or problems or issues that you as an organization, that India has been dealing with in the last 6 months. So could you talk a little bit about this religious conflict and then what's happened with COVID?
Yeah, that's right. There was a communal violence, and as a result of communal violence, many people died, and many people became homeless. They didn't know where to stay, they didn't know what to do, because it's completely vandalized the whole thing. Even mosques were being vandalized, and people's homes have been burnt. And we, a people of God, who do not love to be violent. And the Bible very clearly says that let your light shine before men so that they see good deeds and praise the Father in heaven.
Mm.
So, I mean, Epicor is meant to do good works so that people can see good works in us and glorify the Lord in heaven. And also, secondly, this COVID-19 is a disastrous situation that we are going through. It is it's a kind of a catastrophe, I would say, where millions of people are affected. For example, when you look into cities like Delhi, there are many migrants come in. You can see all sorts of people from the different parts of the country here, and for them the livelihood is their daily wage labor. Now, after this COVID outbreak, our Prime Minister has announced a lockdown of 21 days. So these 21 days, they were not allowed to go outside. They're literally locked down. And then a person who earns his food by daily wage, if he doesn't go out and get any kind of a work, he cannot have any food. We have seen the news in the news channel, because we cannot go out, that the people are starving without food. So we were called by the government, the Delhi government, saying that, Epicor, being a civil society organization, can you do something for this poor? We don't have any resources. We again decided within our staff, saying that how do we respond to the situation? Because there's so much of need in the community, there's so much of need in the people, and especially, most of our projects are interior in nature. They are not in cities. All these people, they come from those locations to cities. And when you see that link, the chain of the poverty from the community to the cities, we felt that is something that we should be involved.
So let me get this straight. What I just heard you say is you've had religious fighting between the Muslims and the Hindus. You've been asked to be a spokesperson and a peacekeeper in the midst of that as an entity, because you represent thousands of Indian churches, the Christian churches, to the government. And now you've got COVID in a country of 1.3 billion, so that's 45 times the population of Canada, in an area of land that's much smaller than Canada.
We don't have any, because we have seen God is faithful. Even in the past, when there was disaster took place, so we believe that God is faithful. And God has asked us to give generously. So therefore, our staff, even though they don't get a very high-fi salaries, but still they said that, yes, let us do it. Take my 1 week salary. Take my 10 days salary. Take my 2 days salary. I wanted to be part of this, supporting more.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Now, what kind of activities beyond just food purchase and distribution to the poorest, or these migrant workers, in the project areas of Pakur and Saura, where you're doing a major poverty alleviation program by teaching them new skills? We're not doing giveaways, we're teaching new skills so that whole villages, I think the project in Saura was 27 villages of, and a village is could be 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 more people, you're training them on new agricultural methods and savings. What are you doing there in the education of mainly illiterate people on the areas of COVID? How are you addressing that issue?
There are three things we said during this time, Wayne. One is we try to identify the poorest, those who are affected directly by this COVID. And we identified that Saura has 515 families who are daily wage laborers. If they go to the field, they get some income and then they eat food. Likewise, in Malto, that is in the Jharkhand, where the people lives on the the hills of the forest, they're also called as a primitive tribal group. They are very much interior, they are inaccessible in nature. So there are about 650 families, who comes under such category, who are daily wage laborers. So we said that we need to meet immediate food needs of these people. So the primary aspect is that how do we, mitigate the hunger? We don't want people to starve. We are, God has faithfully placed us in different places, different levels. We don't want to be happy with what is happening and not to be, responsible about what is happening on the field. As they say that the things that God hearts break, let my heart break like. When God sees all those things, definitely his heart breaks. It's a kind of injustice. So therefore, we felt that we provide the food to these people. Secondly, we would also have personal protective equipments for the staff, because it's very important now.
If you get sick, you infect others when you're supposed to be training on how not to be sick.
Yes. So therefore, we said that we will have that personal protective equipments, and then train our staff on how do they respond, how do they aware communities with much precautions and much a careful way, so that they will not be infected. At the same time, they will be able to aware the people in the community. The third one is that we wanted to see in a longer term those who are losing their livelihood. For example, people cannot go back for the migration for years. How do we support them? Because it not only just supporting in terms of the temporary need, but also in the days to come, which is much longer. If they are not empowered and sustainable, they will again go back to the same situation. The poverty will continue. So we are thinking these three levels of helping the communities, those who are affected by this COVID-19.
And so another thing you said earlier before we started this interview, you shared with me that you're actually doing preventative training, where that is, you are taking your conservation agriculture trainers and you're taking your self-help group trainers and facilitators, and they are now being converted into health education trainers to train through the church, to the pastors, to the community, so that they can go and do it, because the communities trust you and trust your churches.
We have training providers, who are being trained by FECOR in the model of integral mission. Now, they have been trained. All these mentors, we call them, those have been trained by FECOR, the church pastors. They have been trained, and they have been given the materials from Care Fund Canada, so that they would be able to train the congregation on members of the congregation, either through the online or through the phone. They can able to train them so that the community was aware about it. So we're trying to contact them through the mobiles and train them such a way that they are aware about the situation, and they will not be infected anymore.
And so, folks in Canada, I want to say thank you for your support of Tear Fund over the years. We are so appreciative of what you have been able to do by working in partnership with our Indian friends and our African friends. And it is making a difference. Lives are being changed. People are being transformed. Communities are being transformed. The work that we are doing is working hand in hand alongside the evangelism, discipleship, the growth of the national church. You're empowering and training leaders. And so we'd encourage you, we plead with you, will you give to support our work alongside FECOR as they move ahead in dealing with COVID, of speaking into the lives of the poor. God bless you and have a great day. Thank you so much.